Everyone, my name is Melina Naish. I'm gonna start by kind of going over like what life was for me after graduating and how I kind of, am where I am now. And then we're gonna talk about sunlights a little bit. And then I'm gonna paint the model so you can actually see what the results are. A little history of sunlight. So the creator of sunlight, her name is Candy Shaw. And if you actually YouTube it, it has like the whole story of how she created the sunlights. She has a salon, a 50-chair salon in Atlanta. It's called Jameson Shaw Hairdressing. And she actually has never gone to a beauty school to get her license that way. Her father was first U.S. champion, international U.S. champion in hairdressing competition, Jameson Shaw. And so she grew up in the industry, and people like Vidal Sassoon were like uncles that came to her birthday, when she was little. And as part of her education, at some point, she went to Paris and got her education there. So basically, her hairstyling is very much influenced by French techniques, which balayage, as we all know, is a French technique. So even before balayage was cool, she was painting hair 20 years ago. And she realized that it's faster than foiling and more efficient. So she decided that she's going to basically train her stylist to paint hair. And they were doing it with just a traditional lightener, and it was becoming messy because, the traditional lightener swells and, it leaves like dots and spots. So she, being from Atlanta, they are famous for their clay. So going back to her childhood memories was like, well, clay, like if we can use that technology to make like a clay lightener, that kind of hardens on the outside, but it stays moist on the inside. So she took her idea and went to all these big companies, and they were like, you're crazy, balayage is just a fad. It's here today, and it's going to go away, and another trend is going to come, we're not going to invest in that. So they actually manufacture sunlight as a family. So they put their own personal money in it, manufactured it, and balayage just became like this huge thing. And then all the industry, all these companies started like realizing this is a trend that is going to stay, it's not going anywhere. So as you can see now, there are like so many lighteners out there, but she was like the first one who came with the idea of creating like a clay lightener. So it is still very much a family-owned company. If you ever call their customer service, most likely Jameson, which is her son, would answer the phone, or her daughter-in-law, which is a hairdresser. It is created by one hairstylist for all hairstylists. As I mentioned, she has a 50-chair salon there. 20 of those 50 stylists are six-figures hairstylists, so it just shows you that they know what they're doing. And it's completely 100% made in America here. And it uses the kaolin clay technology. So how is that different from the traditional lightener? It just, you can paint with it very smooth. Where you put it, it just stays there, and it can give you up to 7 levels of lift, which is amazing. So that's just a little history of sunlights and Candy Shaw. So we're gonna go through, and I'm gonna show you here before I paint the model, because I want to show you the technique. And with her, I have to have like a specific pattern. I don't think she would like it if I was like showing you like all the different strokes on her hair. So the thing that we call CBS, so it's consistency, your brush stroke, and your saturation. If you get these 3 right, you're gonna have like a perfect balayage every time with up to 7 levels of lift. So consistency is basically how you mix your product, right? Not with sunlight or not just with clay lightener. This is just an information for you. No matter what lightener you use, traditional or clay, the power is always in your powder. So every time if you add more developer to it, you are diluting it and taking the strength away. The less developer you put in it is going to be stronger. So the way sunlights recommend mixing your powder with your developer is 1-to-1. So if you're doing 1 ounce of sunlight, you would do 1 ounce of your developer. And it's like an equal opportunity lightener, so you can mix it with any cream developer of any line, which is really good when you're working in a salon and you have like a very limited space. And you don't want to have all these different things because they like this lightener works with this, so I'm gonna have this, and this works with that. It works with any brand that you work or your salon makes it available to you, and also works with any kind of bond builder. So you can use Olaplex, Brazilian bond builder, or anything that you use. One of the difference between balayage and foiling is your body position. So let's say with foiling, if I was foiling this, right, I would be standing right in front of my work, right, and take it and just make my weave and paint to my belly. With balayage, you are actually like an artist. So your body position is open. You stand in front of, like on the side of your section, and you never paint to your belly, because when you paint to your belly, what you do, you actually take product off. You think like you're saturating, but you're actually taking the product off. And what you want to do with balayage is basically is like frosting on the cupcake. You know how you just build it instead of pushing it in, because it's a surface painting, right? So you're just painting the surface of the hair. And so I think it would be better if I just demonstrate so you can see it. So I'm not going to be talking about like pattern and like, you know, the placement yet. We will go over it a little later. Right now I'm just going to show you 3 of the techniques, which is crochet, your single, crochet, your V, and then skimming, which is almost like a baby light. So as far as sectioning, you always want to find out where your client parts the hair. So we're going to assume she parts here. And then you kind of go from top of the highest point of the head to right behind the ear. And you're just going to clip that away. And one thing that I've seen everybody likes to do, right? We just like to twist and twist and twist. And we don't want to do that with balayage, because when you do that, you are creating all kind of crease and curls in the hair, and you want to have kind of like a smooth surface to paint. So you can just basically just push that away like so. And same thing on the other side. The doll head, I'm going to use 10 volume because I kind of want to use the doll head later. But when I paint clients in the salon, I always mix it with 40 volume. So I know that might sound scary, because even if they have pre-lightened hair, I would still mix with 40. So how I kind of change it up, instead of having 4 different bowls of like, oh, this is for the end with 6 volume, and this is like 30 volume for the mid shaft. And so I just use 1, but as far as my saturation, I give it a saturation as if it would lift like 6 volume lift. Or if I overly saturate it, I would get like a 40 volume strength. So that's how I paint. And I always use Olaplex, so I have it as an insurance. So I'm not worried about damaging my hair. Yes. So, okay, so these are actually stainless steel. So they would not interfere or cause any chemical reaction with your formula here. So you might ask, why are we using these instead of the plastic bowl that we use? Can you use those? Yeah, of course. But the reason why we are using this is balayage is kind of like more of like an upscale technique, right? So you kind of want to present it in a way. You charge more for balayage than you do with foiling. So it's all in your presentation, right? So you're not gonna go and get like a steak dinner and they serve it to you in a paper plate, right? They're gonna bring it in a nice fancy plate with like a great presentation, and that's the reason why we kind of use these as a great conversation opener as well. So a lot of clients are like, oh, like, what is that? And so it kind of, you know, gives it a little bit more. It's like about the experience and the presentation to the client. So it kind of just the little things like that sometimes justifies a little upcharging. You know, it's kind of like a boutique service. You present it as such, and they're like, oh, great, you know. So they don't mind paying a little bit extra, you know, $10, $20 or whatever it is that we charge. So I normally just mix it with a whisk or with a spatula, you can.
I'm allergic.
So this was the consistency, right? And then I use a loader brush. This one, I use it to load my paddle and paint. So this lives here, but my painting brush, it will never touch inside of this bowl, and I would never leave it here. And the reason why is the cleaner you work, the more success you're gonna have. So imagine if I'm just dumping this brush here and picking it up, putting it here, the lightener is going everywhere, getting in all the places that I don't want, and then I'm picking the hair. I'm gonna transfer all those spots and dots to the hair, and guess what? When I wash it, I'm gonna have dots and spots, so I don't want that. So this loader brush is gonna be there, and I can basically just pick my product and load it onto my paddle. And I wanna smooth it completely. And so I'm gonna paint you a brochet, which is like a single. And you just kind of make like a small V, like so. And I would then take my lightener with my painting brush. And as you can see, the brushes, they are designed, they are not soft bristles like some of the brushes, because as you can see, we mix it very thick, right? So we need something that can handle like putting the product on the hair. It has this little spot here, so you can just put your index finger on it, just like how you would hold the pen and you would paint. And the end, you can actually use it to section the hair. So everything is designed for a purpose. So that's how I would hold it, just position. So what I do, I would take a dome, we call it a dome. You make like a little C or J shape to take the product from the paddle and put it on your brush. So it's gonna be like this. And the size of my dome is going to be the size of my paint. So if I want to do like a big, like lasagna sections, I'm going to make this dome like really big. But if I'm going to do something small, it's just going to be this size. So again, I'll just section my brochet or my single. And the way my brush stroke is going to be, I'm going to tap at the roots, at the regrowth, and rub in the middle and push through the ends. Why are we rubbing in the middle?
To blend.
To blend, okay. Any other? But what is the new regrowth, right? It's like a virgin hair, doesn't have any color on it. It's close to the scalp. We know that part lifts very quick, right? So just a little light tap would do. And the ends, normally they're either pre-lighted or they're naturally like very porous, so they lift pretty fast too. So our main area that always gives us a little trouble lifting is this mid-shaft, right? And it's the coldest part of the hair. It's not porous like the ends are, and it's not close to the scalp, so it doesn't have the body heat to help it. So what we do, the rubbing, it causes
Friction.
Thank you. And friction causes heat, So it kind of helps the product to work a little bit more aggressively and lift through that midsection. Great answer. So, and when we say tap, we don't mean like tap. It's kind of like a small circular motion, as you would see now. So I'm gonna go at the roots and start tapping. So, and I can get as close to the roots as I want, or not. So I'm getting pretty close. And I'm not going to move any further until I am happy with my saturation. Remember, it's like frosting a cupcake. So you're building your saturation up. You're not pushing anything under, right? It's just on the surface of the hair, but you're building it up like you're frosting a cupcake. So when I'm happy with my saturation there, then I'm gonna move through the mid shaft. Like now I'm rubbing, so I'm actually going with more bigger circular motion. If I want to build up to it, I would. And I'm very light-handed. So basically my brush bristle doesn't even touch the hair. The only thing that touches the hair is the lightener. So I'm just gently putting the lightener on and kind of sweeping it. And at this point, you know, I'm kind of getting through the ends. So we push through the ends. What I would do, I would take a little bit of the product. I would put it underneath the hair, basically lock it in, turn my paddle diagonally, put it on, and then push it through the ends. So why do you think that is? Why am I turning my paddle instead of putting it like just straight there?
Because you've already used the product there?
Okay, so one of the reasons is it's all about blend, right? So if I'm putting like a line there and I'm painting, I'm gonna get a line on the other side. But if I'm working on a diagonal, it's not creating any lines in the back and the underneath the hair, right? So that's why we always turn it diagonally, so you don't have to spend hours then blending and reblending. It's already blended for you because you are having like a very seamless transition. So that is like a piece of brochet. You don't want to see any hair through your painting, because if you do, then you are working. So let's say if this is 40 volume, and if I can see hair through it, then I'm getting a lift of 20 volume strength. But if it's fully saturated, then I'm getting a full-on 40 volume. So the brochure singles, you use it to convert a foil. So let's say you have a client that has like traditional foil, and you're trying to like gradually get them to transfer to balayage. You can use this because you can also, with brochure, you can mimic the look of the foil, so they don't feel so much like out of their comfort zone. It's good for overall blonding because you can take like big sections and completely saturate it. So it gives you like that pop of blondes. And for balayage, so balayage, okay, so this probably is a good time to share this. So with balayage, we never do partial. We want to train our client that balayage is a look. So whether I paint half of your head or your whole head, it's a complete look because I'm putting it where the light should live. So I'm gonna charge you a full price, right? It's basically when the client comes and they're like, I need a trim, I don't want a haircut. Well, you have to go through the same sectioning, same motion. So trim and haircut are the same thing. You're not gonna charge less. So same thing, we want to train our clients that is a whole look. We want to get away from the partial and full and things like that. So balayage is like the only thing close to partial because it's a quick 15-minute service that we do. So we just basically have the clients in the shampoo bowl. They just lay their head back. We see like all the money, like we paint the money piece, the front section, their hairline, and wherever they part their hair. So it's like 15 minutes of painting. You let it process for 15-20 minutes, and it's great for most of the balayage clients. They go between 4 to 6 months before they come back. So if somebody is like, oh, you know what, like my hairline is getting dark, it's good for that person to just do like a quick touch-up. Or someone that is very hesitant, they never lighten their hair, and they kind of, you just want to give them like a little taste of what it looks like, you can do a quick 15-minute service like that. And that's the only thing close to partial that we do.
So you leave them in the bowl the 15 minutes?
No, I paint them. I paint them in the bowl. And why is it in the bowl? Because like when my hair is back, I can actually see where I need to put that lightener. The hair actually jumps. So you know, okay, this is the one that I'm going to pick and paint. And after that, they just sit right up. You cover them with bali wrap. They just sit for 15-20 minutes. You wash them, tone them if needs to, and they're on their way. And you actually, like, we charge about $65 to $75 for that. Quick. Something very quick. You don't spend that much time, but you make money off of it. So now we're going to move on to crochet. Crochet is like your V. So this is perfect if you want to do like melting. So a little advanced technique is, let's say if I'm doing, like if I'm painting a V, and let's say a client comes that they have like a severe like line of demarcation with their foils, and I kind of want to erase that. So I would paint with the lightener this side of the V, this side of the V, and then I will go with demi-permanent color that is very close to their natural base. Maybe one level darker or the same tone as their base, and just paint the middle of the V with that lightly to erase that foil marks and give them that balayage look. So there's like the depth in the middle of your V with the demi-permanent. Never do it with the permanent color because you want it to be very seamless, and the permanent color would not be as seamless. So always with demi, the same tone as a base or a level darker. So that would be for color melting. For the look of ombre, where the ends are really bright, but there's like depth in the root. And again, like creating shadow, as I mentioned, that would be the V when you paint inside of the V with the demi-permanent color. So I'm going to show you. Yes.
Sorry. You had mentioned that when you do a balayage, the price and everything, do you also style them at the end of that so that they see it, or is
because
like just a...
No, because normally it's like an adds-on, like, you know.
Yeah.
So let's say if they are here for a haircut, I'm like, oh my God, you know, like it's summer, let's just brighten up, like, you know, just the front piece a little bit and see how you like it. And so all my haircuts, I blow dry them and I finish them dry. So of course, like I would give her the cut, do the balayage, dry her, finish my haircut. I spent extra 15 minutes and really not much on the product, and I made another $75. So,
Thank you.
yeah,
Sorry.
of course. No, don't be. I love the questions. So I'm gonna paint a crochet or the V section right now. So for that, let's bring it back here. I'm gonna just follow the same thing with my middle finger and the end of my brush, but I'm taking like a bigger triangle now. So, can you see? And I still have that cushion underneath. I'll paint it here and then I'll tap here in the regrowth lightly. When I'm happy with that, then I would come and rub and then lock it on my brush vertical, and then so let's say if this hair was already pre-lightened, I definitely would not go with 40 volume and give it complete saturation, right? So maybe I would do this. So here I would get the 40 volume strength. Push that. Here maybe like 20 volume because we're assuming that that was like a pre-lightened hair. So this is what I mentioned before. Instead of mixing 3 different bowls, like what went 20, 10 volume, 30 volume, I just mix with 40 volume and then I paint it. So this is a medium-sized Bali wrap. It's different from like the saran wrap that you wrap your sandwich in it, right? Because that, if you ever use it, if you do this,
It's done.
that's it. You cannot use that. It's gonna like, but this, see, is perforated. So I can open it. So we use this, and you see like I have like a little lightener there. So I would never use that on a client because that's gonna leave like spots that I don't want. But I mean, it's just a doll head, so I would use it. So what this does, it kind of like incubates the heat in there. So it makes your lightener to continue lifting. And it's also a window for your work. So if I put like a foil here and I'm sectioning my next section, I don't know, I can't remember because I'm involved in this conversation, listening to what she did on her vacation with her son. Like, you know, so sometimes you're like, I have no idea what I did on the bottom section. But this way, I have no problem. I'll just put it in. And I'm like, oh, I painted there. Like I put the low light there. So I know what I'm going to do on my next section. So it's kind of like a window for your work. And it also helps you incubate the heat and it gives you like more lift. So it's really easy to separate it. And the way I like to put it on, I always like fold it and put it here. Why do you think I'm folding the top?
So it doesn't bleed.
It's almost like putting cotton. Have you seen like people that do balayage, they put cotton for that just little lift so the next section when it comes in is not pressing on it. So it does that, so I don't need to use cotton. So then I would bring my next section down. As we mentioned, the power is always in your powder, right? And also we know with every lightener when you mix, you have the maximum amount of strength in the first 20 minutes. So after 20 minutes, your lightener is gonna start getting weaker and weaker. So let's say if they want like maximum amount of lift in the front, as most people do, and you start it in the back and you mix like the whole huge bowl of sunlights, by the time you get here, if you mix 40 volume, you're probably working with like 20 volume strength. So we always mix as we go. So I would mix enough to get me through 30 minutes of painting, and then I would go back and remix. So I'm always working with the maximum strength. Great question. Thank you for bringing that up. So let's paint another crochet, and then we can then move on to our model. So I'm going to actually just take this whole section in my hand. And then again, I'm just going to gently tap. Then I move to the other side. Paint. And now, if I wanted to melt, I would get like, let's pretend like I have a demi color here. I would go here, put my demi, and then continue painting. Exactly. Because if I wait and go all the way down here, I'm losing tension here. So this hair is not going to be all straight. So it's not going to be a seamless saturation. It's going to be all like bumpy. You're going to get like bleed marks, spots, even in your, low lights. So you want to kind of do it when you have maximum tension there. So, see now, like there is no product on my brush, and I'm kind of just dry brushing to just melt and diffuse the middle. So as you can see, there is like really no need for backcombing or teasing the hair because you can really diffuse any lines that you might have just with your brush stroke.
Can you say where do you put the demi?
The demi would be living like right here.
Okay. When have you mixed the bleach with the demi?
that would be okay.
Oh.
So if they touch, and that would happen, you would see like you would bruise like your lightener with your demi. As long as like they are not like smashed together, that's fine. But because the lightener would always win, it would eat through the demi. So, but I mean, as long as you don't push them together, if they're kind of like touching, that's okay. And it will guarantee it will happen. Don't freak out. It's okay. Just let it be. It's all right. So again, I'm going to cover that. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about sectioning, and then we're going to move on and paint our model. So there's that. And let's go to our sectioning. Okay, and then another thing, like you can, at this point you become an artist. You can basically maximize. Does this always have to be V? No, you can paint a W. So you can do this and then like paint another line here. So that just basically then your artistic placement comes to place, how you want that look to be, and based on that you would customize. So I know like a lot of stylists always ask about placement. So feel free to take a picture.
This question.
Yes.
How do you know how many sections you have to do?
Okay, so basically, I think one of the things that I always used to do as well is overpainting, right? We get excited and we still have like that mentality of like we're foiling. So we want to take every little section and paint it. And what happens with that is what makes the light light?
The dark, the contrast.
Thank you. So if you're painting everything, right, there is no contrast left. So for somebody that wants to have pops of blonde, you would spend all the time painting and they would be like, oh, it's not as light as I want it because there's no shadow left behind it to make that blonde pop. So less is more. The less you do with balayage, the better. So what you want to do, you don't want to take like teeny tiny sections, but you want to paint big. So imagine like painting lasagna instead of spaghetti. So, you know, and then another thing is, are you painting a brunette or are you painting a blonde, right? So like with brunette that wants to stay brunette and have pops of light in there, I would take like really like, so let's say if this was like a real client, I would probably take only 4 sections in the back. But I wouldn't do this. I would probably do like panel, like really thick. So I would probably paint like this and this, connect them in the middle. So it would show, because otherwise if I do this, it's gonna get lost in those big sections. So paint big, but you don't have to do too many sections.
So would you skip like sections?
Yeah, well, so let's say if this is, so okay, so let's say my section would be like this, right? So I can either take this whole thing, right, and paint. That's gonna be all left dark. Or if I want more control, I can just go leave that and just paint this. So I can paint like V, or I can just take a big section like that and do like panel painting. You know what panel painting is? Like when you start as the hair that is close to the face, you start it higher up and then you kind of make a slant, right? And you paint like that. So that would be something, that's how I would paint a brunette. So another thing that I want to talk to you about, because for brunette that would be a great technique, we want maximum blend, right? It's something we call painting the ridge. So what that means, we said that we work with triangles, right? So if this is my triangle, if you want to come closer to see, this is almost like 3D painting, right? If I lift this hair up, can you see the ridges of that triangle? So imagine if you're painting these ridges instead of painting the surface, especially for brunettes, you have this diffuse internal like ribbon of color that are coming through. So let's say if she wears her hair straight, you would see like very small like light there. But when she is curling, because this is the ridge, right? You're painting on this side. Imagine if I curl this. Do you see how the paint, the color would come through? So it's a great technique, especially for your brunettes and for diffusion and for hair, for money piece on the hairline as well. I always paint the ridge. So it's the ridge of the triangle.
Around, turn again slowly.
You kind of have to use foil to do section.